Salesism is a system in which four pillars are in place. First, bid sales are granted cashback to the customer based on the activity-based costing. Second, bid sales are deducted with 20% upfront going to the POSIX fund. Third, bid sales are amortized on a daily basis at a 2.5% annual rate in favor of the bio fund. Fourth, the tax rate is based on the activity-based cost profit from customers, which equals the sales revenues minus the activity-based costing allocated to the customers. Let us answer a question. Is Salesism a sound economic system? First, of why is Salesism a sound economic system? Increasing purchasing power. Sound economics is what gives more purchasing power, and bid sales mechanism achieves that not only by enabling free product for its holders, but also by saving fiat money simultaneously. Moreover, bid sales engage new consumers in the economy. Those are bio, the low-income categories. Second, of why is Salesism a sound economic system? Balancing scarcity with production. Printing money could potentially stimulate the economy. However, there was a caveat. If the amount of printed money exceeded the actual production and output of goods and services, it often leads to adverse consequences. This excess money would prompt sellers to raise their prices, resulting in a phenomenon known as inflation, which affects the purchasing power of the people. In addition, if the money supply grows at a slower rate than the economy, it can potentially lead to deflationary pressure. Sound money is what grows proportionally with the economy growth rate, no more, no less. Gold, a scarce natural resource, was considered a form of money because its supply was beyond government control. Under the gold standard, central bank couldn't create money without adding to their gold reserve. As a result, on average, inflation tended to be lower compared to other monetary systems. However, the gold standard also had its drawbacks. The real demand and supply of gold were highly variable due to the random nature of gold discoveries. Moreover, many countries, for example the United States, accounted for only a small share of these discoveries of gold. Additionally, gold has demand for industrial uses, which further influence its demand and supply dynamics. So, gold is not the ideal kind of money that grows proportionally with the economy growth rate. If we look at Bitcoin, which is at the top of the list of digital currencies, Bitcoin that came into existence in January 2009, it will reach the maximum limit of 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist nearly by the year 2140. Bitcoin's scarcity is achieved by creating a limited number of new Bitcoin every approximately 10 minutes. That is how Bitcoin ensures a slow and controlled increase in supply. But Bitcoin is a FI economic practice because it hasn't added value, whether in industrial, agriculture, or trading form, as we previously discussed. Bitcoin also has a fatal issue in the form of irreversible loss of Bitcoins, which occurs when users either forget their private keys or pass away without sharing their private keys with their inheritors. As a result, these Bitcoins are permanently removed from circulation, creating a slower or negative growth rate for the money supply. This slow or negative growth rate may be less than the economy growth rate, leaving the economy at risk of potentially facing deflationary pressures. It is worth to be mentioned, bid sales doesn't face the risk of losing money units because its network has full customer details and provide alternative ways to retrieve their bid sales holding. To recap, we don't need money whose units depend on printing decision from the government, discoveries from the surface of the earth, or digitally minted units. The slow growth rate of money supply alone doesn't guarantee stability or prevent inflation. The key factor is the balance between the money supply and the overall output of goods and services. Bid sales has its own unique scarcity. Bid sales increase proportionally with the growth of production and sales activity. activities. Unlike Bitcoin, where scarcity is tied to a mathematical algorithm, bit sales scarcity is derived from people's happiness. Every new bit sales implies a satisfied customer who has been served well. So, bit sales increase as people enjoy their shopping experience. That is the delightful scarcity that bit sales provides. Third, of why is Salesism a sound economic system, seizing circulation in case of inflation. The gold standard has a self-equilibrating nature in that if the profits fail because the gold supply increased more quickly than production, or the production costs are rising for any reason, then the cartels of gold decrease production to reestablish price stability. In Salesism, when inflation rises, the cost of goods sold rises as well, and customer segmentation deteriorates because more customers will not be able to maintain their high rating in the light of the higher costs. Here, the bit sales formula declines the generated bit sales, like gold decreasing supply mechanism to reestablish stability. Of course, the bit sales formula is quicker because it works simultaneously with each sale transaction, unlike gold, which waits for the cartel's decisions in meeting and committees subject to the members' judgment and perceptions. Fourth, of why is Salesism a sound economic system, linking wealth with the pleasant effort. Bit sales are driven from the hard work of the people, not the existence of a natural resource inside the earth's surface, or just owing a lot of computing power. While Bitcoin mining for new currency units is a computer experiment, and gold mining is mechanical and industrial operations, Salesism is a life experience. To keep searching for the best producers who maintain valuable products with superior customer service. These businesses with their visible hands are what create society welfare. Bit sales mining is the process of calculating and granting bit sales to consumers and awarding bit sales to producers through the daily POSIX contest. The bit sales mining process requires more purchases, which means more economic activity and customer luxury. The bit sales mining process is a joyful shopping process and life experience, unlike the hard work of gold mining or the emissions of pollution in Bitcoin mining. Fifth, of why is Salesism a sound economic system, enjoying the present with future security. Because of the bit sales amortization feature, bit sales holder will have a high time preference to spend it as soon as he receives it, while keeping his fiat banknotes in the bank. Spending bit sales while maintaining fiat banknotes in the bank maximizes the enjoyment of immediate consumption and gives a feeling of security in the future by having banking savings. Even in economies known for their low time preference, such as Japan, people who prefer saving to consumption will find themselves compelled to increase their level of consumption and gain shopping enjoyment that's coupled with the ability to accumulate saving in the bank.